Don't ask where Billy is because we can't answer that question.
Hi.
Oh, you ready to go?
Sure.
Hello. How's it going?
Great.
Awesome. So in the first Karate Kid movie, who was the toughest out of the Cobra Kai group? Who was the toughest kid?
Who is the toughest out of the Cobra Kai group?
Yeah.
This is it. We say this one more time in the Karate Kid film.
Yeah, in the Karate Kid film.
I would say, well, listen, I took more hits from Dr. Zabka than anybody else. But Chad McQueen, who played Dutch, he didn't quite know how to pull a punch. I still think I have some ouches from him. But, Billy and I worked, we had a lot of practice time together. And those fight scenes were really like ballet. They were so well choreographed. So credit our stunt guys and our Pat Johnson, who did all our fight choreography to keep me from getting injured as the 98-pound weakling that I was and still am. So I would give it up to Billy, to Johnny Lawrence and Dutch.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, hello.
Hello.
So I know the original movie was just filmed like a couple years ago, but how hard was it to get back into the characters for Cobra Kai?
You want to start with that one?
Yeah. At the beginning, it wasn't as difficult at the beginning. And then what's hard is getting out of the character. Getting into that character is interesting because there's a lot of me that's arrogant. And so, I could ease into it. But getting out of it, I find myself at times, having done now 10 episodes, I find myself edgy at times and barking at people and really getting short-tempered with a lot of people that normally I wouldn't. So getting in was okay. I could handle that because you have a lot of great surprises coming for the episodes coming up in reference to this character. And all of us, really. I mean, it's all very richly written. But getting out is harder for me. I'm finding myself now much more John Kreese than I ever was before.
No, he's a teddy bear. Darth Vader is a teddy bear.
But I hope that answers your question because, I cry at supermarket openings, and now I don't cry at anything.
That's awesome. Yeah, and listen, it's interesting for in season 1, the first scene I had with Billy Zabka was when I come in. It's in episode 2, at the end of episode 2, when I come in to find out that he's opening up Cobra Kai again. It's very much a scene that they played a lot in the trailer, and it's a image of me coming into his dojo and saying some things never change, and this isn't over. It felt like 30 years ago, and then it felt like yesterday at the same time. We just snapped back into it. There was a chemistry there, maybe a couple of more wrinkles to say the least, and more receding hairline, but it felt a little bit like comfort food, and so that was nice to have that.
Awesome, thank you.
You got it.
What's going on, guys?
Hey, man.
How you doing?
After doing the first film and then filming Cobra Kai, who would y'all say is the actual jerk? Daniel or Johnny?
I think they both have admirable qualities, and they both have kind of problematic qualities. Certainly, season 1 of Cobra Kai was designed to come in through the eyes of Johnny Lawrence and for us to learn about his backstory and why this bully became a bully, and that there was more to that, and he's trying to redeem himself after years of not, maybe leading the most charmed life. And LaRusso went, here he is right here, Billy Zabka.
William Zabka, everybody.
What's going on? Since Cobra Kai, Billy likes to make an entrance.
Sorry I'm late. I was still training at the dojo.
Anyway, so and to finish this answer, for LaRusso, it was about him, having a kind of perfect world scenario with a Mr. Miyagi, which is sort of, I always describe as the human Yoda in his life. And then since his passing, as much success as he's had, he's also maybe lost a little bit of his balance and focus, and his knee-jerk kind of temper gets the best of him, and he kind of at times doesn't seem like the best or nicest friend. So I think therein lies what's great about these characters is they all have flaws, like we all do. So
Cool. Thanks.
you got it.
How you doing?
Great.
So, Cobra Kai was one of the best received shows of the past year, and I know when you're filming a show, you're not really sure of how it's going to shake out until it actually is completed. Were you all aware of how well it was going to be received while you were actually filming it, or were you kind of unsure?
What are you guys talking about?
It's this new
Gone with
show.
the
Cobra
Wind.
Kai. Oh yeah, the show. Yeah. Even when we did the film, we had no idea that it was going to do this. So there's no way of telling ever when you're doing your work how it's going to be received, and you can never really even project or think about that. So no, I think the answer for all of us is we had no idea. I mean, we knew we had a fan base, but would this hit a nerve and would it feel right? We just tucked in and did our jobs and found the characters and brought them back to life. And you guys took it through and pulled it through the finish line for us. So it's a love affair. It's both of us.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
This is super cool. A question about, what was your guys' favorite scene to film in the movies? Because my personally to watch was in Karate Kid 3 where you broke the ice. That was super cool. So what was your guys' favorite shot to film?
There's a lot of choices there because we were lucky enough to be in a movie that had so many great moments. For me, I love the scene where LaRusso learns that all the chores he's doing for Mr. Miyagi are paying off in karate moves. When he says, "Show me paint the fence, show me wax on," he realizes what this all is. It's still a really rewarding moment for the character and the audience. And there's so many. That's the first one that came to mind, but there are many others. So you guys.
Go ahead, Billy.
I like the ending when I won at the end, and then Daniel comes over crying, saying, "You're all right, Lawrence. You're all right." Wait, was that the right movie? No. They're all cool. I think for me, the most thrilling day was day one, and that was the first scene that Johnny shows up on the motorcycles on the top of the cliff, because that was my first time ever acting in a movie. That was the first scene of the film that we shot. It was on a motorcycle. It was cool. It was a bunch of guys. The energy of that was super awesome. So I think the beach scene for me was a highlight for that reason. It's kind of like your first anything.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks. Good question, pal.
I binge watched the whole series in like 3 to 4 days, so thank you.
Thank you. Well, thanks to you, we get to do more of it.
Hello. My question is, they mentioned the name, when they mentioned Terry Silver from Karate Kid 3 in the series Cobra Kai as being a previous owner of the dojo. Does that keep the door open, or is it likely that Terry Silver can make a comeback again?
Well, I would think there's been no mention of it, from the writers, but they're so creative you don't really know. I mean, there's so many bits and pieces taken from all three movies, interjected into Series 1 and Series 2, that the most unsuspecting moments, all of a sudden you'll find a close-up of, Terry with paint on him, and something that I did with him in Karate Kid 3, or, some unusual, because our filmmakers went to the archives of Columbia and found angles of scenes that but angles and takes that weren't used. So they're so creative that anything is possible. To say, no, this won't happen or that won't happen. They could bring in anything. They are students of those three movies like Tarantino is of just general cinema. They're encyclopedias, all of them. So answer your question, I think anything is possible.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question. So you guys you've all played these iconic roles for fighting. Have you ever gotten to use any of your moves in real life?
In real life?
Yeah.
Isn't making movies real life?
No.
It's
not for any of us.
We've been using them a lot lately, I'll tell you that. And we're all limping for it, yeah. No, I ever since I learned martial arts back then, I knock on wood, I've never had a confrontation. You kind of learn. It's like the Karate Kid. You learn karate not to fight. If you can run faster than the other guy, it's just better. So you don't need to go around and see who's tougher, who's cooler, who can beat up who. There's always someone tougher than you. But it's good to know if you get in trouble. Unfortunately, not yet. Hopefully, never.
All right.
I think that only one time, oddly enough, and I've told the story before, where I was in a supermarket and a little kid, small boy.
Yeah, you beat that kid up, right?
I set you.
Such a brute.
I wanted to.
This is the story I was looking for.
Because he was only
No mercy.
He was only 5, and I couldn't justify no mercy.
But you swept the leg.
The kid nailed me. He really nailed me. This little 5-year-old nailed me right in the hip, right in the joint, and it hurt. And he said to me, he says, hits me, and I look down, and he says, "You hurt Ralph." And I looked up, and there was a gorgeous mother. She said, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And I said, "It's all right." I tapped him on the shoulder, and he ran away. But I mean, that was technically the only time I've ever.
The only fight he had.
The only fight I've had with a 5-year-old.
And he won.
This is a little off topic, but for Ralph, what was it like being on Psych?
Being on Psych was great. I got to do 2 episodes. Those guys are fantastic. The whole group. It is a lot of fun, and I also, it's interesting when you do a show like that. All of a sudden, you're open up to this whole subculture of Psych fans, or psychos as you are, and it's very cool to be part of that. Billy did an episode as well. It's a fun show to do, and they are very talented guys. So I loved it, and if they do another movie, who knows?
And who was better working with, James Roday or Dule Hill?
I'm not gonna say that. Is either of them here? That one tap dance is better than the other. That's all I'll tell you.
Hello.
Yes, Danielson.
My question is, which one was your favorite movie, including Cobra Kai?
Well, Cobra Kai is way up there right now because it's keeping my health insurance going. The original Karate Kid film will always hold a special place. The first time we meet Mr. Miyagi and follow Daniel LaRusso and meet Johnny Lawrence and John Kreese and all those characters. And yes, Allie with an I. That one was special. It was magical. It doesn't happen very often. It's just an absolute joy that I could be 35 years later and still having these conversations and creating new stories with some of these characters.
Wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off, brother.
So cute, so smart. You're that 5-year-old kid that hit me.
That might be the 5-year-old.
I didn't answer. My favorite movie that I was in is called The Dog That Saved Summer, and I played a talking German Shepherd. You might want to check that out. It's great for kids, and there's a lot of Karate Kid references. So, for the kids, it's true. That's the only movie my kids have ever seen that I'm in. The Dog Who Saved Summer. I'm a talking dog. Try it.
Hi guys, huge fan. So, you talked about Dutch's character, Chad McQueen probably not pulling any punches. Is there any likelihood of any of the other guys, the Cobra Kai's coming back, Dutch or John or Bobby or any of those guys?
It's got to revert to Marty's first response to Terry Silver, which is anything is possible.
Yeah, any of those characters, any of those films that are woven into the universe of what the Karate Kid was, can make an appearance if it organically works in the story. And that's what these guys who wrote this, the Cobra Kai series, three of our writers, showrunners, they have a vision here, and we just trust it because obviously you saw how well it turned out, and those little Easter eggs that are dropped in there, and then leading up to Marty's entrance at the end of season 1, which is highly anticipated now as we head into season 2. There's, it's anything could happen.
Thanks a lot.
We're also we're not allowed to disclose anything about what's coming anyway. So those are gonna be hard questions to answer in general.
But you'll love it when you do see it. Trust us.
Marty's in it, I can tell you that.
Thank you.
Kreese is back in black.
Hello there. Hello there. Okay. Okay, Johnny.
Thanks for that question. That was good.
Okay. What is the weirdest thing that has ever happened to you, period? And I'm not talking to y'all three. I'm talking to all four of you. Also, shout out to y'all over there in the computers. Y'all are amazing.
The weirdest thing is a kid came up to a mic one time and went, "Hello there."
Can't blame you for that.
No mercy, dude.
Looks like it's from The Hobbit.
It's a good question.
What is
Talk
this
to me
question? The weirdest things ever happened to me in my life?
Yes.
Period.
Period. Extra P.
That's a hard one.
It's a hard one. I'm sure there are plenty. There's nothing's coming to mind that's worthy of your time. Marty?
Yeah, I once, it was really funny. I was in New York, and I had a ranch next to Nick Nolte's place. Yeah, this is funny.
But we're not name dropping.
And Nick, Nick and I were friends, and I was in New York, and it was a telethon I wanted to go to. And everybody kept saying, well, you look like Nick Nolte. This is like 1976. And Rich Man, Poor Man was popular. And I got into the telethon, and they said, who are you? And I said, I'm Nick Nolte. And I had a bet with a friend of mine that I could do that. And she says, oh, Mr. Nick, we love you in Rich Man, Poor Man. Took me right to the telethon, to the phones, and then I kind of rather not be on camera answering phones because I didn't want to say, hi, this is Nick Nolte, when it's really Martin Kove. And it was quite an interesting experience because it was for charity, and I raised a lot of money under the name of Nick Nolte in a booth, in a private booth where you're not on camera taking donations. So it was a very strange experience for me. I never told Nick.
I don't have a weird enough story.
Oh, no, anything will do.
If there's like 15 people behind you, I don't have a good enough story. Yeah, you're on too. Do you have something?
No. This is a Karate Kid panel, so this is a special. Right now is a special.
Oh, I know the strangest thing.
I
have it. This is the strangest thing one of the strangest things that's ever happened to me. I was in Louisville, Kentucky, and I had to do a panel at 5 o'clock, and it was 5:05, and it was 5:10, and then Martin Kove showed up, and I was like, oh my God, Billy Zabka is supposed to be here. And then we decided that me and Marty would come on first. Then Billy came on, and here we are with you.
Yep. Same.
Ditto.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good question. That's cool, kid.
Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all of you coming out. I actually have a question for all three of you. What was it like working with Pat Morita, the late Pat Morita? And also, do you have any memories of him both on and off set?
Well, Pat Morita was playing a role of a lifetime in Mr. Miyagi, and he delivered it to the highest level you could imagine. I mean, he really, has created a character that has become part of all of our lives and part of pop culture, and a magical, soulful character. And he knew that and was very generous to all of us. There was an ease of which I always felt when I worked with him. It was effortless, and that just leads me to believe that it was meant to be, and it was just the right pairing and the right person for all of us to work with. He's sorely missed. He would have loved the Cobra Kai show, and to be a part of it. And he is woven throughout. If you've seen season 1, the character lives on and continues to do so. He's with us all, man. He created a great character, a big part of my life, and these guys could elaborate on that as well.
It's great. I won't elaborate too much. There's so much about it. But Pat became, we used to call him Uncle Pat, and he called me BZ. Day one, I met him when I met Ralph, and I was impressed with both of them because I knew we both from Outsiders and him from Happy Days. And I was a new kid on the block, so I said, if you see anything I can do different, please let me know. And I always tell this story, but you haven't heard it probably. But at the fence fight scene, when we were doing that scene where Daniel instigates this gnarly fight by dumping a water hose on my head, and he chases him across the field. And we were shooting this. It was late at night. We shot this probably for a week, I think. But during some of the rehearsals, I was just kind of walking through at half speed, and that was the one time Pat stepped in and grabbed me and he pulled me. He goes, "BZ, BZ." He goes, "Listen, when you rehearse, give it 110%, man. Give 110%. That way when the cameras are rolling, it's like bread and butter, baby. It's like bread and butter." And he tuned me up. And so all those rehearsals were like way up here. And then, that intensity, you're acting. That's not like real life. We're not running from a school there. We're like there running 5 feet to the fence, and you have to have that energy. And he taught me a lot about that at that moment. And he just became a dear friend. And we've stayed in touch all the way up till he passed. And he would have loved not just the show, but all that's happened with this Comic-Con stuff. I mean, back then, this wasn't going on when he was alive. So you would have adored him, and he would have been, he should be sitting right here. So thanks. Huge love to Pat.
He was, my experience was only, aside from acting with him, was just when I screen tested for the 4th time for the head of the studio, and went to the set, and there was the director's assistant with the camera over his shoulder and just acting with Pat, just right there, and the camera was on me, and it was the scene in the dojo. But I like that. I like that you don't show, and it's open season, and we did it, and he was great, soft, gentle, very encouraging, and he was a pleasure. We meet for drinks a couple of times a year from that time on, and it's we all miss him because he was a funny, lovely gentleman. Mad as a hatter.
Thank you, all of you.
Thanks, man. Thanks for bringing that up.
That was going to be mine, but I had to back up. I love the way episode 5 attributed Pat. It was great. And just bringing Randy Heller out of nowhere, some of these, to play Daniel's mom. That's the actress's name, I think, right?
Randy Heller.
Yes, Randy Heller. Yeah, that was great. Just out of nowhere, and the way Elizabeth Shue was just kind of just, it's organic, where people grow apart. But anyway, sorry, my question was just, as actors, is it just more fulfilling to do a television show? Because I know the movies have a special place in your heart, but you're just able to flesh out these guys so much more. I mean, I feel like I know Daniel and Johnny way more based on the 10 episodes than I did from the 3 films. So I just want to kind of get your 3.
It allows you to these characters to breathe, having it be arguably like a 5-hour movie, which the 10 half-hour episodes, right? So I would imagine if it was a sequel motion picture, it'd have to be 2 hours, and you'd have to pack in a lot of plot and have some big ending, and so having the opportunity, the platforms of like YouTube or Netflix and all these streaming sites, it gives you a chance to flesh out those characters, and credit the writers of the show for having the wherewithal to know that. And so they weren't just trying to slam another Karate Kid movie. They came up with a fresh angle in from the perspective of Cobra Kai.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. You guys got answers, or I was going to walk away? I said, do you have an answer for that as well? Like just being able to flesh out Johnny
I completely
more?
agree. It's a joy. It's fun to play. That you could, like Ralph said, if it was a film, it would have to have 3 acts and be lead up to something and go. This way, it breathes more. You can really go in into the levels of the characters, levels of the plots, and it's opened up. And they tapped into the universe of the Karate Kid universe, but it also relates. The Karate Kid related to people back then, and the characters, and the show is doing that even now. So now we can kind of take a little bit more time to go through the characters and the storylines and really follow it and track it, and it's a lot of fun. And it's, of course, the characters are evolved 35 years, so we have a whole lot of fun stuff in the middle of the last Karate Kid to now to play with and work with. And working with these guys has been amazing, and the writers, the creators, it's been a joy. And I think what we're experiencing on the set has been translated to the screen, and I'm glad you guys are enjoying it.
Totally. Thanks, guys. I can't wait for season 2.
Thanks, man.
Hey, guys. Thanks for coming. I was just curious if your appearances on How I Met Your Mother influenced the idea for Cobra Kai, or...
I think all along the way there's been little kernels that probably added to some of the idea, but really what was happening was there's this kind of somehow this movie is echoed in the culture, and this kind of a tsunami came with it. There's little waves, but all of a sudden now this kind of mothership landed with it. So I don't know if I didn't think it directly influenced the show, but I'm sure it was, it's definitely kept it relevant. Yeah.
All right, thanks for coming.
Thanks. Yeah.
Hi guys. This question might be a bit controversial, but one of the overwhelming themes of the Karate Kid movies growing up, and especially Cobra Kai, has just been the effect that a role model like character can have on an individual when they're growing up. And that's one of the reasons I've loved them all, especially Cobra Kai. So I was wondering if I could get your take on the pattern that I've noticed, especially in the Cobra Kai show right now, is how it kind of steers away from the modern, more PC effects they present on the child and in TV shows, especially in the CW. Keeps getting more and more PC, but the overwhelming effects that the Cobra Kai shows teaches the kids more confidence, teach them brotherhood, teach them friendship, teach them to go outside of their box, everything. And it objectively shows, I mean, obviously it can, it's shown in the show that it can have some negative effects, but objectively it still brings them out of the shell and helps them out, without a doubt. So I was wondering if I get your take on that and how the show steers away from the more modern take on raising children and such.
Well, I think that the writing, just coming in after watching the show with both of them, and how pleasantly surprised I was in the depth that the writers write, because I came in as someone who was just in episode 10, and the writing was brilliant for both their characters and for the kids. I didn't expect so much activity with teenagers. And even now, there's even more, and can't give away anything, but there's more development in that area, which is fascinating, and it's really good. And it's about confidence, it's about bullying, it's about all the things that we kind of touched a little bit on in the movies and did as entertainment. But now, when you watch the show, in season 2, you'll see there's wonderful lessons to be learned and the conflicts between teenagers. And, we all have similar conflicts as adults. And the kids have similar conflicts to us. And that's how well it's written. You can really see how we work as human beings through the show, work through and what's motivated to basically solve the problems of being a teenager.
And it's also a perspective, perspective, say Johnny Lawrence's perspective of he's trying to do the right thing and the only way he knows how, and the fact that he's, quote unquote, maybe living more in the 80s than present day with, just how he lives. He's navigating that and then learning, and throughout the series, and also for LaRusso on the flip side, he needs to get a little more in touch with the truth, what's going on with the troops on the ground, and not be, so white glove with everything. I think it's both. I mean, everyone's still finding their balance throughout this show. I mean, that same theme still presents itself. But yeah, some of my favorite moments are those moments that are, about these kids being coddled or whatever. I mean, the Johnny Lawrence stuff just kills me when he goes, "I have asthma." Not anymore. Yeah. I'm on the spectrum. I don't know what that is, but get off of it. But then, it's fun to put that in face. But then also it's perspective of, okay, we really now have to deal with issues, and Lawrence's learning curve through that, as well as LaRusso's and Crease's in the future. I mean, that's why these guys, these writers are just so smart. They're doing a great job with all that stuff.
So well written. Are there any final thoughts you would like to leave our audience with? Because we are coming to an end. This has been amazing. But, I know that you guys are, going to release more episodes. When are we going to see them?
I think springtime, we could safely say exactly when. Last season started May 2nd. They're hoping to start the season before then. I think we're just finishing up. I mean, we're flying back, Billy and I, in tomorrow. No, in seconds. We have a flight in a couple of hours because we have to shoot tomorrow morning back in Atlanta. So we're finishing up the season in the next 2 weeks, and then they'll edit them together, and hopefully Christmas morning will be back in the springtime.
Just to give you all a little insight, these writers are just destined to give you enormous entertainment. Most of the episodes are really bigger and better than last year. And the reason why that they have to fly back, the reason why we've all tired from shooting for 3 months, is because the material is so good that no one cuts it. They just move through it. And if days fall behind on the schedule, then ultimately they pick these scenes up in another day. But the writers are ruthless to communicate their point of view and their wonderful acknowledgement of the values of Karate Kid. and the values of this series. There we go.
Well, guys, let's have a big round of applause. Thank you so much for coming
you, everybody.
out. William Zabka, Martin Kove, and Ralph Macchio. Thank you so much for doing this.